Greetings. This is Brian Harris with the Independent Black Voters on Facebook as we continue our series of Know Your Candidates. Folks, we're getting closer to the time to vote. I just received my mailing notice saying that the mailings will go out roughly May 18th. You need to get ready to vote. You need to be an informed voter. And that's the process that we're going through here in the Independent Black Voters, is giving you a chance to vet and see the candidates that are out there. So when you get that ballot, you don't just skip the judicial side, you actually vote, and you are an educated voter. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce, hold on, I want to, Dan Gilliam. Dan, how you doing today, Dan?
Hey, good, Brian. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Dan, tell them what you're running for. Tell them what the actual seat entails, and tell them a little bit about yourself to start off.
Will do. So I'm running for District Court Department 24. It's going to be an open seat next year, meaning the judge that's there now is not running for re-election. So there will be no incumbent. Okay. So there are 5 of us vying for that seat. A little bit about myself. Yeah, it is a lot. Yes, I agree. So I'm from Ohio originally. I was there for about 30 years. I went to undergrad, graduate school, and law school at The Ohio State University. Between my graduate school program and my law school program, I worked at a residential treatment facility for foster kids. For 2 years, I worked with them directly, and then for the other 2 years, I was the program director. Decided to go back to school, got my law degree, moved out to Nevada, started my job at the Clark County Public Defender's Office. That was my first job as a lawyer. I worked there for about 2.5 years, representing individuals charged with misdemeanors and felonies. I decided to shift gears and became a prosecutor in the city of Henderson, where I worked for almost 8 years, prosecuting mainly domestic violence and DUI charges. I also taught frequently at the Henderson Police Academy, teaching new recruits search and seizure laws, probable cause issues, as well as DUI investigations. When I left the city, I opened up my own practice and went back to doing defense work. Represented, again, everyone that's charged with minor misdemeanors all the way up to high-level felonies, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years. A couple of years ago, my firm was taken over by Bighorn Law, which is a largely personal injury firm in town, but I handle all their crim work now, and so that's what I'm doing. And I've decided that I want to kind of help the community as much as I can. It's interesting, Brian, how this kind of starts. When I know you went to school at Purdue. When you finish college, the first thing you're really concerned about is just getting a job and making some money so you can start paying some bills. As your career progresses, and Brian, you can probably speak to this as well, your plans kind of change. And so rather than just making money, one of the things that I was concerned about was, look, I want to keep my home safe. I want to keep my wife safe. As I meet my neighbors, I want to keep my neighbors safe. I'm to the point now where I want to try and keep all of Clark County safe. And so, one of the things I want to do is to become judge in Department 24 so I can help facilitate that to give us a safe community.
Okay, great. And obviously we all are looking for safe communities. And, again, in the Independent Black Voters, we are, and I say this, the Black community has always been about safety, and we've always been about law and order. But one of the key issues and why we started this to talk was, while we want law and order, we want fair and equitable law and order. We want justice that is balanced. We want people that don't come in with their biases, that they leave them at the door, because we all have biases. I mean, nobody can say that they don't, but the whole key is leave them at the door. And when you come in there, judge people on their merits, judge people on the content of their character, judge people with the same yardstick, no matter what the color of their skin or anything else that comes about. So that's what we're looking for in a person. Tell me, a little bit more about this department, what it handles and entails. Tell me what you think that is running well right now. Tell me where you think their improvement is needed.
So to address the first point, which was what the court does now. So Judge Crockett is the judge that's handling all the Department 24 cases. That is a largely business court, which means it's mostly civil. Mm-hmm. So with my largely criminal background, what will happen when the election occurs in November, we have the primaries mm-hmm. in June, and then we have the general in November. At the end of the general election, that's when we will know who all the judges are going to be in district court. Mm-hmm. The chief judge will assign cases to each new judge based on their experience. And so while I will have a civil calendar, I will have a largely criminal calendar, meaning I'm not going to be handling all of the business cases that are currently in Department 24. But that will change when I become judge in there, because Chief Judge Bell will acknowledge my background and will give me a largely criminal caseload, is what I believe is going to happen.
Okay. Okay. So well, from that aspect, tell me, as you see in the judges right now, as far as the judges dealing with criminal, what do you think is running well? Where do you think there are improvements? Where do you think you coming in will help make improvements so that, again, our whole issue is fair and equal justice?
So I believe that the court that we have now is pretty diverse racially and economically, which is a good thing, right? I mean, that's kind of what we want to see when we walk into a courtroom. We don't just want to see one type of person everywhere that we go. And so one thing that I think the voters have done a good job of in this county is electing a diverse branch and a diverse field of judges. The judges that we have are all exceptionally qualified. And so I'm very, very happy to be in front of each and every one of them when I go. I find that each judge listens to what I have to say, and I find that most judges are pretty fair when it comes to the rulings that they make. Now, the issue becomes, what can be improved? And so there is obviously a bevy of things that can be improved in the criminal justice system. Equitable treatment is at the top of that list, right? And so, Brian, you and I had a conversation a little bit earlier about this, and I'd like to touch on that. So when you walk into a courtroom, you will many, many times see, especially if it's a criminal courtroom, you will see many individuals that we call are in the box. And those are in custody defendants that have not posted bail, that are being charged with some kind of criminal activity. And in district court, that's going to be a felony or a gross misdemeanor, but largely a felony. When you walk in there, I would expect the normal person to think, look, whatever the number of people in the community are as far as a racial makeup, that would probably be the same racial makeup of the people that are in the box. So just by way of example, if 40% of the Clark County residents are of white descent, you would expect that 40% of the individuals in the box would be of white descent. If 20% are Hispanic and 20% are Black, you would think that those numbers would also be relevant and would be shown in the box. Brian, I'm telling you that's not the case. If you walk into a courtroom today, I can promise you it is not 40% white people in the box. So that says one of two things. Either minorities are being arrested at a larger rate than the white population is, or minorities are not being given the same opportunities for bail as white people are. Now, whether one is true or two is true, that needs to be fixed rather immediately, in my opinion. And so that would be one of the first things that I would try and set straight in court were I to be elected.
Okay, great. And as we said when we talked a little bit earlier, it's a combination of both. And as a judge, you can deal with those issues, but again, that's the broader effect of making sure that we understand what's going on. Because as you said, I would expect the same type of a ratio of the people here versus the people who are in the box. And unfortunately, not just here, but across the country, the box seems to be tilted towards people who look like me. And so we also talked about the fact that economics does play a role in what's going on in there too, because if you have an unbalanced economic system, you have an unbalanced criminal system too.
So, which we do have an unbalanced economic system, and that, just like you said, is one of the reasons that we do have that unbalanced criminal justice system. You're exactly right about that.
Okay, so again, I've talked to people. I continue to talk to a lot of the different people running. So I'd like to thank you. I thank everybody who takes the time to be vetted by the Independent Black Voters Group, because I believe that more than ever, the communities must be aware of who's running, and they must be educated voters. The coronavirus is changing the way we do business. I don't know if you're going to see more voting or less voting because of the coronavirus, but my hope is that we see more voting and we see more people who don't skip the judges because they don't know who they are.
I think that hits the nail on the head, in my opinion, Brian, is knowing who the candidates are. What I find pretty unfair to the average voter out there is the amount of research that they would have to do to become educated when it comes to the judges. There are a lot of judges that are going to be on the ticket for the primary and a lot that are going to be on in the general. And I find it just a little overburdensome to expect someone to do all of their research on all of the candidates. Even though that's probably our civic duty to do before we vote, it just seems like a lot of work to expect of someone. But like you said, I don't want someone to just skip over the judicial part of the ballot or just fill in the bubbles willy-nilly because they think that they're just going to like that name or that, I like that person's, first name or the way their last name sounds. It makes more sense to me for them to at least know. And so I thank you for giving me the opportunity to at least get my name out there and let people kind of know what they get when they vote for me.
Okay. I thank you too. And as I said, we will do some other things leading up to the election. We want to wish you a lot of success in the election. And we'll probably catch up with you and talk to you some more. But we wanted our folks to see who you are and to hear what you have to say. And we're going to end this by giving you another chance to tell everybody all your information and to give them another plug on why they should vote for you.
I appreciate it, Brian. So I'm the only person in my race that has experience on both sides. No one else in my race has done prosecution and defense work. And so why that's going to benefit the community when I become judge is I will have made the very arguments that I will now be listening to. So I know which ones are meritorious and which ones are not. And so being a prosecutor and a defense attorney gives me a unique perspective on each and every case that comes before me. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me and the candidacy, you can go to my website, which is Gilliam4judge.com. I'm also available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have any questions, Brian, I have no problem with your listeners texting me directly. My phone number is 702-378-2442. I would be happy to text with you and talk with you about any issues that you have.
Thank you very much. Again, this is the Independent Black Voters. We will be talking and talking and talking some more until this election is done. Because, folks, now more than ever, we must have a voice. Now more than ever, we must vote. So I thank you again, and I wish you much success in your run for this seat.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am. Here, let me